Things in the Medians arc you might have missed. Irreplaceable has multiple references to Monstercat songs that hold some deep importance to my life. Firstly, this synth comes from the iconic Tristram and Braken track, Flight. This bass synth comes from Scribble by Puppet. The lead synth in the final drop comes from another Tristram track, My Friend. And lastly, this little ending riff is actually another reference to Scribble. Oh yeah, and right before the final drop there's this sound, which you hear variations of many other times throughout the album. It's a recurring motif of mine, originating in the track D is For from my debut album, D. Moving on to Meet Queen Consequence, right before the second act, there's this soundbite. So play nice. Which of course comes from this iconic scene in Toy Story.
See everything. So play nice.
The second act itself, meanwhile, has a few Roblox sound effects sprinkled in there. Pretty much every track does, actually, but I will not be going over every single instance of that. The next track I want to bring up is Big Strong Girl. Firstly, just a bit of trivia, this was the final song I ever produced on this dogshit Dell Optiplex office computer, which was supposed to be a temporary backup, but I was really stuck on it for 3 years straight before finally saving up enough money for a new custom build. It's a long story. So naturally, the CPU on there really hated this song, as well as every other song on the album. It's a miracle I was able to get these tracks up and running at all. Anyway, secondly, the ending climax is sort of a nod to Jane Remover's latest album, specifically the parts that are unexpectedly devoid of drums. I find this really striking and wanted to do my own spin on it. That being said though, this part of my manifesto is also a subtle nod to Jane Remover. No hate, I love her music, but this is a really disappointingly lame attitude, and combating it was one of the main inspirations behind this project. Next is Look Too Close. In the lyrics to the little build-up portions, I go out of my way to keep every line as far away from rhyming as possible, because I wanted my embrace of ugliness to not just be about appearance, but also be reflected in the songwriting itself. Now onto Projectile Cough from The Faultless False and all the rest. In this part, where I start singing about Dream Break, the added synth layers here are specifically paying tribute to the music of Sewer Slut, aiming for a similar futuristic sound that was often present in her work. Also, I intentionally left the break here completely unchopped, just plainly looping, because that's something that really pisses off breakcore elitists. Even though Dream Break isn't even trying to be breakcore at all, it's just the current wave of atmospheric drum and bass. The atmosphere is the point for that style, not super sick break chopping. So I believe these genres should be able to coexist, as should all genres. I forgot to write this in the script, but Fidget for me is heavily inspired by Galen Tipton's style of brain scratch, as she calls it. It really changed my life. I love that shit. It's just audio autism wonderland, you know? I wanted to get some of that in there. Next is my collab with Elwood, So Year. The Raining Taco sample here is not actually of the original song, but an edit someone made of the YouTuber Creekcraft, pitch correcting some cameo recordings and various other clips to the melody.
Tacos, no need to ask why, just open your mouth.
nice.
My reason for referencing this song at all was to further drive home the theme of unapologetically embracing tacky and dated things. But as for why we specifically sampled this Creekcraft version, we just thought it was funny, honestly. It sounds really weird in some parts.
Go, 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 go. It's like a dream.
Also, the ridiculous ending segment of this track
Preview.
was just some complete bullshit Elwood threw together as a joke when this track was in the early concept stage, and I thought it was so funny that I wanted to sneak it into the final song somehow. So I kept it in my back pocket for several months, and it ended up becoming the outro, just with a
Preview.
watermark looping on top as a final touch. This particular style of freeform sound effect interlude nonsense is something sorely missing from most hyperpop beyond 1000 gex. I haven't really heard any since Gex dropped Ratfucker, so I'm happy that made it in here. Not only is it funny to me, it's thematically potent, because a good chunk of the album is spent discussing how having a sense of humor and no regard for what's seen as cool should not make your art any less worthy of being taken seriously. So this is just one example of that in action. Lastly, one thing I want to mention about my ABCDEFU cover. This bit right here, just before the big ending freakout. This is meant to be a little tribute to a very underrated Sophie track, LOVE. It just made too much sense. Two songs I love that involve spelling something out, and my art would not be the same without Sophie's influence. Her passing still fucking kills me, even 3 years later. So even if this moment may seem kind of ridiculous on the surface, I meant it in the most heartfelt way possible. So that's pretty much everything. There is even more excessive detail I could get into, but this should cover the most interesting tidbits. Thank you very much for the support on this album. It's been lovely to see it really reaching exactly the right people. And to those just now finding out about me from it, hi, welcome, enjoy your stay, just be prepared for anything, because I never make the same LP twice.